Hello Internet. Welcome to another episode Blender Precision Modeling. In the past episodes I have shown different ways how to work with Blender as a cut tool. In this episode of the tutorial series I'd like to conclude with some additional Blender features related to the Blender Object Origin. Working with the 3D cursor and the Object Origin can be a very awkward and time-consuming task. To speed up the whole process, two add-ons come to rescue. I have already introduced the first add-on, the Enhanced 3D Cursor add-on, which helps us to manage the cursor. The other add-on, which can assist in modeling, is the TP Origin add-on created by Marvin Cabroya. The add-on can be found on GitHub and must be downloaded and installed as a zip file in Blender. You can find a link to the download and the documentation in the description of the video. The TP Origin add-on has various functions to set the position of the object origin that supports us during the modeling phase. For example, it can set the origin to cursor, to the active element, to a selected geometry. It can place the origin to a point on a bounding box. It can zero the origin to one of the 3D view axes, and the add-on has a lot more advanced tools to manage the location of the origin. I have already installed the add-on in Blender. After the installation, the add-on will appear with a new section in the Tools panel of the 3D view. Make sure you selected an object, and then you can see the tab in the Tools panel. There are a lot of functions and we will not go to each of those functions. I leave that to you. Let's have a look into some short examples how you can use the TP Origin plugin. For example, what you can do is you can set the origin of any object to the center of the 3D scene. For example, if I select the cylinder here, now the origin of the cylinder is in the center of the 3D scene. With what this can be helpful, for example, for rotation around a given origin. You can set the origin to the cursor. Therefore, I set the origin back to the geometry of the cylinder. For example, if I set the cursor to the sphere, and then I can set the origin to the sphere. I can use it, for example, for rotation, scaling, or whatever I like to do. Another useful function is the snap to geometry. This depends on the snap element settings. So if you select, for example, vertex, you can use the snap to geometry to set the origin to a selected vertex. Or change this, for example, to face. Then you can set the origin to a face. There are many other functions you can use. I leave that to you to discover the functionality of the plugin. Maybe this is worth to make a separate video on it because it's very powerful. Unfortunately, this will take too long for the current video. Let's now lay our focus on the last topic. So if we use the origin during the modeling, there are different possibilities to combine object locations. The first thing is, if we use the snap menu, we can use the snap menu to move an object or model parts to specified locations. If I move an object, Blender will always use the object origin to position the object. and it will translate the position of the object in relation to the position of the origin. If you have a look onto the cube, you see that the cursor is located on this left face. If I now say selection to cursor, the object origin is positioned on the cursor location and the overall object geometry is positioned, translated in relation to its origin. We can also use multiple objects. For example, let's select two objects. Here we have the origin on the left side, on the face. Here we have the origin in the center. If we now say selection to cursor, both origins are mapped to the cursor location. If I say selection to cursor using offset, Blender will try to keep the offset between the origins of the selected objects. Because I selected the sphere as the last object, the sphere became the active object. Blender tries to set the origin of the active object to the selected cursor location. Again, if I reverse the selection, first the sphere, then the cube, again the same process. Now the origin of the cube has been matched to the location of the 3D cursor and the offset to the sphere has been kept. I can also try to use 3 objects and it works in a similar way. If you deal with many positions, it could be helpful to use empties that you can reuse at any time. For example, if I have to deal with multiple locations during the modeling, it could be helpful to set empties to those locations because then I can reuse the location. For example, I can add an empty and then I can set the empty to a specified location. Using the empties is a very quick way to use specified locations during the modeling. Now we can reuse this position anytime we need it. For example, if I want to use this to position my sphere, I can just select the arrow and say selection to active. This is a quick and fast way to work with multiple positions that you need to reuse again and again during the modeling process. So far so good. I have to finish here. The goal was to show you ways to speed up your modeling process, to really understand how you can work with the origin. Keep in mind there are many other use cases in Blender where you need to use the origin or that are related to the origin. If you understand to work and to use the origin correctly, it's very easy to understand how the modifiers, for example, work, or how you have to use the origin in combination with curve modeling and in many other cases. Hopefully this video was useful for you, and if you have any questions, please use the comment section. Feel free to ask. I will try to answer the questions. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button. And if you like, you can subscribe. I will continue providing other videos in the area of Blender, modeling and 3D printing. Have a nice day and bye bye Internet.